What is up? Welcome into this Thursday preview show of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Like I said, we have a elite slate of games this weekend to preview. Last week, I thought it was like a little meh turned out to be. Kind of had the Detroit game against the Cowboys. That turned out to be a laugher. We had the Ravens Commanders game, which was good, but it wasn't like,
but then there's people like you and me who like the Bears and the Packers, and they had really good weeks. Jordan Love looked awesome.
Yeah, but I'm saying
week.
like the matchups.
I know the matchups. I think they're a lot better this week.
This week we got some matchups. Before we get into the first off the ball segment this week, we want to talk a little bit about Tom Brady acquiring
minority owner,
a 10% stake in the Raiders for $200 million, which, my God, the Raiders being worth $2 billion is kind of crazy to think about, given where the state of that franchise is. But
just shows how powerful the NFL is, bro.
Well, yeah, and moving from Oakland to Las Vegas was prescient on their part. What do we think of this, though? Because he's announcing games, and he's not going to stop announcing games anytime soon. And he's already kind of conservative in his announcership. And he's kind of gotten criticized for that and not being too critical of anything going on in the football field. This seems like it's only going to make that worse.
He could be one of these minority owners that just calls it like it is. And he may err on the side of getting in trouble on air. It'll always be interesting to hear Tom Brady in the booth. And when people complain about having the greatest of all time in the booth, I'm like, dude, he's going to get better at this. He was like essentially Mr. Irrelevant in the draft. And then he ended up being the best player ever.
I think that's a good point because Romo, I think, cares more about how his golf game is right now than how he's perceived as an announcer, right? Like Romo, I think everything from this point on for him is icing on the cake. Not to criticize the CBS employee, but like he doesn't have the drive that Brady does, right? Brady wants to be, no matter what it is, he is going to want. So people like, the criticism, and I don't care who you are as an announcer, you could be the best announcer in the world. Like Chris Collinsworth has won like numerous like whatever broadcasting awards, and he gets torn apart every Sunday Night Football. Like it doesn't matter how good you are.
Kill Joe Buck too.
Yes, exactly. So like doesn't matter how good you are, people are going to hate you. And so Brady's going to take that, and I think he's going to start to run with it, and he's going to get better at this. But I do think it's going to hamper the product a little bit.
I think that all these guys are so much different. Like, you could listen to Mark Sanchez one weekend and he's got great energy and he's boisterous and bubbly on the air and he's a lot of fun. And then you watch a guy like Brady and he tries to give you that introspective look at what life as a quarterback would be like, things he doesn't like when he sees it. Tony Romo, I feel like, is watching like a fan that knows football really well. And I think his reactions are like the ones that we have at home. Everybody's different in this broadcasting world. And it's like styles make fights, and what your taste may not be my taste, but I think it comes down to the pairing with these guys. As it pertains to Tom Brady being a minority owner and affecting his broadcast integrity or his sports journalism, I think it won't change him at all. I mean,
I don't really care
until the Raiders until the Raiders or the NFL or somebody steps in and says, we take issue with the way that you covered that or handled that. I don't think we're going to see any change in Tom Brady's broadcasting, how he is in the booth. He's been doing a great job, in my opinion. He's getting more comfortable. He's getting more reps. I think the last thing you would want to do is put a bunch of hurdles in front of him that say, you can't say this, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about this. Because Fox, they're in a ton of money on Tom Brady. And now
$375 million.
Tom Brady is in a ton of money on the Raiders. He's going to try to find a way to make both these things work. I don't have an issue with it. I know some people have an issue with it. I don't. I don't see why.
I don't really care.
I don't see why you would have an issue with it. You're just looking for something to get on Tom about, or the Raiders for that matter.
I'm not too worried, I'll be honest. All right, this Sunday, NFL and CBS features a slate of great matchups, including a battle of two exceptional young QBs. When CJ Stroud and the Texans travel to Lambeau Field to face Jordan Love's Packers. Now that's the CBS Sports Sunday. We'll get you set for kickoff beginning at noon Eastern with the NFL Today, Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus, or 8 p.m. Eastern on that other pregame show on CBS Sports Network. Make sure to check it out.
8 a.m. Eastern. 8 a.m. Eastern. I got the coffee rolling at 8 a.m. Okay.
Yes, sir. All right. We're going to take a break. Then we're going to come back. Hit up all the matchups this weekend.
A lot of good ones.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got two thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
All right, first, before we get to the games, our locks of the week from a week ago. Little update. My first week below 500. Jalen Polk, catch a ball, dude. And that Jacksonville-Chicago under still haunting me. You, though, coming back up to 9-9. The Detroit line hitting. Detroit-Dallas, you had that one call just to a T. Jamar Chase, unfortunately, didn't go over 75.5 receiving yards. But 2-1's 2-1. 2-1's making cash.
2-1's good. 9-9 means we got a chance at survival.
We'll get to ours at the end of this. Maybe hint on some of our favorites, though, as we go. And we'll start with Thursday Night Football, where the Broncos travel to New Orleans to face the Saints. A lot of injuries to note in this one. Patrick Surtain, out. Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, banged up, but should play today. Broncos also on their third-string right tackle for this game. So tough injuries there. From the other side, Pete Werner is out for the Saints linebacker. Cesar Ruiz is out. Rashid Shaheed is out. Taysom Hill, Derek Carr, both doubtful, unlikely to play. And there is the Sean Payton revenge game factor here to note. My tail of the tape says this. Head coach and quarterback, I'm going the Saints way, the Broncos way. Obviously not going to give the Saints the quarterback should Derek Carr be out. Receivers and backfield, though, even with Rashid Shaheed out, I got to go to the Saints. Offensive line, defensive line, both giving these to the Broncos, although I don't think either of these offensive lines are any great shakes. Linebacker and secondary, though, getting the nod to the New Orleans Saints, especially with Patrick Surtain out. If Patrick Surtain was playing, different story, but with him out, can't be understated how big of a loss that is for the Broncos. He was, we love Riley Moss. We love Jaquan McMillan. But when you got that number one guy in there,
we love Riley
things
Moss.
are a little bit different for this Denver Broncos team. So over-under is 36.5 in this one. The Saints are 2.5-point dogs at home. Where do you like this one going? Because I don't have a great handle on this.
The teeth of that Denver football team is that back end on defense. They get after people. They create extra possessions. We saw Surtain take it 100 yards last week. That's an overwhelming change in momentum for a football team. When you don't have that star player out there, when you're dinged up on the other side with Moss and McMillan, to your point, this leaves some openings for Spencer Rattler if that's going to be the guy this week. We heard Derek Carr is still dinged up in that oblique. Look for this young guy who had some confident throws last week. He had some ugly stuff. He had some really good-looking stuff as well last week against the Bucs. Look for him to take some chances down the field. But, it comes down to this. Denver's top 5 in blitz and pressure rate, so they're going to be getting after Spencer Rattler. Does he make the decisions in time? Is he able to make those sight adjustments on time? If so, he can make that Broncos unit pay because it's not their first men out there. You're looking at the second group. That's what I'm going to be keeping my eye on. Also, New Orleans still banged up front with that offensive line. So that's going to be the story of the game. It's the blitz package versus the front, the line of scrimmage. Can you protect Spencer Rattler? Let him get started early in drives and early in the game.
I think that's just the biggest thing for me is I don't love a 5th-round rookie. And as much as Spencer Rattler had some encouraging things this past weekend, he is still a 5th-round rookie making a second start in the NFL.
Yep.
And it's against Vance Joseph, this defense.
But you're at home again.
Even without Patrick Surtain, it's a nightmare to play. The number one blitz defense in the NFL in terms of frequency. 48% of their snaps this year, they're blitzing. That's just a lot to throw on it. And as much as Todd Bowles blitzed too, who we faced in week 1, they don't do the combo stuff on the back end that the Denver Broncos do. They do a lot of blitz and then static spot drop, as opposed to the Broncos, which will do blitz with man coverage and other things of that nature. That it's going to be tough for a young quarterback to figure out. So I like the Broncos probably a little bit. I don't love them. If you're really so inclined, it's Thursday Night Football. You got to have a little to make you feel some juice about this matchup.
Don't forget that's a rookie. That's a rookie on the Denver Broncos. On the other side too. Playing quarterback and going to New Orleans is a really tough ask. Not everybody's going to go out there and do it.
That's week 7 for him, though.
Baker Mayfield. Yeah, week 7, week Schmevin. Okay, you're going to New Orleans. That's a tough place to play. Historically, guys don't do well in New Orleans. Take the Baker numbers. That's an outlier. You know what I'm saying? They ran the football great as well. I'm interested to see how Bo Nix is able to step up and get a win against a group that they should be able to beat.
Yes,
in my opinion.
From the Saints' perspective, though, unfortunately, this could be a nail in the coffin, right?
Yep.
If this is kind of, it's early on to be saying must win, but you're 2-4.
The demise was swift.
It was so fast. It felt like you got away from them because they still have they still have a 20+ point differential. They still have scored more points than they've given up on the season, but they've lost 4 straight games now. So to stay even within wild card, because the wild card in the NFC right now is looking like it's going to be a 10-7-ish sort of team. I don't think you're sneaking in with the way the NFC is going.
That's got the Bears written all over it.
We'll see. But for the Saints, this one, I would deem it must win. I think we can give this one a must win for them from the Broncos' perspective, they're actually in the playoffs if it ended right now. So I don't think it's a must-win for them, but they need to stay pat in that AFC. All right, on to the Patriots Jags, 1 p.m. game, right? Or is this one in London?
This is in London. It's a 9:30 a.m. game.
The 9:30 London game.
The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where the Jaguars got unpantsed, derobed last week. The Jaguars, rather, not the Patriots. Weird. The Jaguars. 4 touchdowns against Caleb Williams. Are we going to see this guy Drake May do it again?
Well, here's the thing: they have a distinct talent advantage over the New England Patriots. I give them the tick mark for quarterback, receivers, backfield, O-line, D-line, linebackers, and secondary. Oh, not secondary. Patriots getting secondary, excuse me. But that secondary tick box is huge because this Jags defense, they insist on trying to play man coverage with some of the worst corners in the NFL. Still no Tyson Campbell going to be back for this game, which is massive because they have been the worst pass defense in the NFL in terms of yards allowed this season. These teams are both bad. They're both 1-5. This is a draft position sort of game, in my opinion. Jags are 5.5-point favorites. 42.5 points is the over-under. I don't know. There's not much to love about this matchup either way. I just don't trust the Jags enough at 1-5 to say, give me 5.5 points with them.
This is all about the Patriots for me. What does the second act of Drake May look like? You're going to a foreign land. It's not just an away game. You're a rookie on a pretty porous roster going across the pond to play against the Jaguars, who are essentially playing their second home game in a row in London. And to me, it comes down to what is the availability of Ramondre Stevenson? Can you have balance with this offense? Are you able to run the football, opening things up for Drake May in the passing game? Obviously, he was effective throwing the football last week, and he wasn't gun shy. He was a guy that wasn't backing down from contact, and he saw a lot of contact. So I think for Drake May, that's what I'm going to be looking at. Is this Patriots offense able to keep him protected? We know that the offensive line has been the story, but we liked what we saw from Drake. If Ramondre plays, I might be hammering the Patriots on this one.
I will say, though, I mean, the Jags D-line has to be one of the most underperformed units in the NFL. We went last week.
And they just got lighter with Roy Robertson Harris out of the lineup, too.
And we talked about this with Pete Prisco the other day. Their backup defensive ends are like 290-plus pounds. They are not guys that are going to track down Drake May in space. They're Eric
PA
Armstead.
Sprint, halfback flat. That's that play in Madden. You can't catch Drake May on that one with these guys.
Yeah, I think May's – this is a good – for him to have success, this is a good defense to go against, I'll just say.
It's a confidence-building game for the Patriots. Yes. You know, you got this new guy in. There was hope last week when you saw him in there. What did he throw? 3 touchdowns in his first start. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to as Patriots fans. We got a few Patriots fans in this building, and you saw them after that game, albeit in a loss, and they were happier than they have been. Yeah. So they've got their quarterback. The number 3 pick looks to be just that. So it'll be exciting this weekend.
All right, Titans-Bills. Bills 8.5-point favorites at home. 41.5 points is the over-under. Some injuries to note. L'Jarius Sneed may not play. He hasn't practiced with a quad injury. He hasn't been playing great, though, when he has played. James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, running back at tight end, been limited in practice for the Buffalo Bills. But we saw with Ray Davis, not the worst thing in the world if James Cook can't go. They still have dudes back there. And this one, the tail of the tape's pretty obvious. Everything offensively goes to the Bills. Everything defensively goes to the Titans. Titans first in the NFL in pass defense this year, 137 yards passing a game allowed. Now, again, some of that's who they've played. Caleb, Rodgers, Malik Willis, Tyler Huntley, Joe Flacco. Not a murderous row of quarterbacks. This is going to be a different animal going against Josh Allen, who hasn't thrown a pick this year. Who would have said that?
Josh Allen, way to go.
The only
accurate, not taking risks. Who would have thought? Who was
it last year that was like railing against his interceptions, saying that's why he can't be the best quarterback in football? Whoever it was now has to think he's the best quarterback in football because he hasn't thrown a pick yet.
Because that was the only reason.
That's the only reason why he wasn't. Yeah. It might have been.
Look, the most impressive thing about this Buffalo Bills team, and we've been saying it since the preview show we did before the season, it's the offensive line. And going against a team that's coached by 2 Callahans, you would think that the O-line advantage would be in Tennessee's favor. That's just not the case. We saw the Buffalo Bills go out there this past game and dominate on the ground early. They showed their hand. They said, we don't care what you do. we're going to run the football. We're going to line up in heavy personnel, and we're going to make you sit on double teams the entire day. We're going to force your corners to make tackles. We saw him get on the edge against the Jets and force those star cornerbacks to get physical and get involved in a part of the game that they don't want to be involved in. That's where I think the Buffalo Bills are going to live against this Tennessee team. You talked about Snead being banged up. I know he's a willing participant in the run game. If it ain't Snead or if he ain't 100%, we're going to find out how able he is to stand up to this run game and capable of tackling guys in space.
How quickly do you think they can get Amari Cooper up to speed? Because with the Jets, we'll obviously get to that when they get but Devontae Adams is going to a scheme he's very familiar with. Amari Cooper, not as much.
Yeah, what I wrote, Bill's more dangerous, obviously, with Amari Cooper, but is he up to speed yet? You've got all these guys on the team right now that can't truly get great separation. We've got a bunch of guys that work really hard and are punching up in terms of talent level, but you bring a guy like Amari Cooper in, you have to think that this entire week is spent trying to get him up to speed. How many reps do other guys miss because of his presence in practice? Or are they saying, we're going to keep you off to the, we're going to work you with the receiver coach during all this stuff to get you ready for next week? I mean, I'm interested to see how this works. I would think that if they were playing against somebody more formidable than Tennessee, we would see more Amari Cooper this week. In my opinion, you get a home game against the Titans. We don't need to roll Amari out there. What happens if there is a missed assignment? That could be Josh Allen's first interception. He sees something, he does his reaction. Josh Allen thinks something else. That takes time for a quarterback and a receiver to be on the same page. It's like when I played guard, if you play next to the same tackle all the time, I know how he's going to set against these looks. I know how he's going to fit in the run game. But he goes down or I go down and somebody fills in, there's a learning curve there, and it takes longer than 1 week. I would imagine that at receiver, it could take even longer than that.
Yeah, I don't expect to see a ton of him right out the gate, but obviously it's more of a long-term move. You probably don't need him in this one. We'll see if Will Levis does go. He's still been limited in practice with his shoulder injury. Either way, I don't love the Titans to obviously win, but I like the over in this one. 41.
You like the
points.
over?
I like some points being scored.
Well, if the Bills go out there and run the football and play effective defense, and the Titans just go out there and turn it over like they have, I could see this taking the under. Give me the Bills and the under in this.
Oh, okay. All right, on to the Texans.
No interceptions for Josh.
At Packers. Packers 2.5 point favorites up in Lambeau. 47.5 points is the over under. They're expecting some fireworks there. Tail of the tape says it's a pretty evenly matched game.
Yep.
Head coach, I give the Packers away. Quarterback, I gave it to the Texans. Intellectual honesty, I gotta say, CJ Stroud's playing better than Jordan Love right now, even if my heart wouldn't trade for CJ if it could. Receivers going the Packers way with obviously no Nico Collins for a while there in Houston, unfortunately. Backfield, Joe Mixon, and why am I blanking?
Dameon Pierce?
No, I'm talking about the Packers running back. Wash in the backfield. Why can't I think of Josh Jacobs' name? Offensive line, defensive line, both going the Packers way. That's where I think they have the biggest advantage in this game.
And Tunsil's going to be out, right? Tunsil's got that ankle.
And then linebackers, I go Texans way, even if the Packers linebackers have been playing a little bit better of late. Azeez Al-Shir may not be going, though, so that one, TBD. Secondary, I called it a wash, but truthfully, if Kamari Lassiter is banged up, I kind of am starting to like the Packers secondary, especially the past few weeks with the shakeups they've had. We'll see about that. So, again, very evenly matched, but I do just think, again, especially if Laramie Tunsil doesn't play, I think the Packers line of scrimmage, I think they can block up these edge guys. I think uniquely, now Danielle Hunter is obviously a problem, but the Packers are so good about chipping guys like Danielle Hunter, not letting them take over games. And then I like their tackles, how they match up against Will Anderson and what he's done this year. I think Zach Thomas especially could shut him down if they are going one-on-one in this game. So because of that, I like the Packers, and I kind of like the over. I think this game we just see a little fireworks.
I actually really love the Packers in this one. And you talked about Nico Collins being out and the effect that it's had on this Houston Texans offense. And it's not just throughout the entirety of the drive, it's drive starters. It's the way that this team has stayed on schedule. They've been able to run the football with Mixon, but it's Nico Collins getting those one-on-one looks. He's a man beater. He can find the holes in zone. You don't have that luxury. And then you look at Laramie Tunsil. He had an ankle injury on Sunday. I'm interested to see if he goes or not. Probably not. If he doesn't go, it's going to be tough to stay on schedule without Nico Collins and without your star left tackle on offense. So then you're going to be looking at third and 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, anywhere upwards from that. And that's where that secondary of the Packers comes into play. It's going to be trying to take away what CJ Stroud's trying to go for. We know a little bit more about what CJ Stroud's trying to go for without Nico Collins. That's the matchup. It's Halfley secondary versus the Houston Texans offense on 3rd down. Can you keep them in 3rd down situations and force them to convert? That's really the question for me.
Packers currently +9 turnover differential. They've taken the ball away 17 times.
Yep.
Both of those figures lead the NFL, 4 more turnovers than any other team in the NFL. Truly special stuff there, but turnovers, oftentimes, like I've said before, they're a product of players, not as much scheme. You can do some stuff schematically, but you got to have guys that can make those, and they have kind of those guys now, whether it's Xavier McKinney, whether it's Jair Alexander, whether it's Evan Williams, who's a forced fumble machine. They got the dudes. So
one thing I love about the Green Bay approach offensively is a lot of these guys with really good quarterbacks, they want to throw as many receivers they can out wide and let them pick and choose and go through their progressions. I like that Matt LaFleur, even with a guy like Jordan Love, who is so talented, still has a commitment to protection. You see the tight ends in there. You talked about chip help with Daniil or Will Anderson. They have a commitment to that, and they've got tight ends who are on board with it. I think it also sets up their screen game really well with guys like Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, who like to get up the field, look for the screen game, look for those chips, late releases from Tucker Kraft and these tight ends.
And a lot of people think, if you have a good O-line, you don't need to chip. I think that's when it can, not to say you need it more when you have a worse O-line, but I think you still need to do it, or still need to factor it in when you have a good one, because then you can call those real long developing
dagger
concepts,
plays,
right? Yeah, you can call
Christian
those
Watson streaking across the field,
those drop back passes that, break at 20 plus yards, routes that are interplaying 3+ seconds after the snap, and knowing that we'll have that time, concepts
that doesn't happen in quick game
that you call usually only in college, that you see like Alabama running because they have the O-line to do it. You can do those things in the NFL too, if you just are willing to set protections correctly and use chip help and other things of that nature.
Jordan Love looked like himself last week. So it's like they have their full arsenal at their disposal this week.
But as much as I've loved the Packers defense turnaround, they ain't faced what the Texans bring to the table, right? This will be the real test for this.
But they are hamstrung. The Texans are hamstrung. We went through that.
All right. Dolphins at Colts. Colts 3-point favorites. A lot of injuries on the Colts side, though. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, all didn't practice yesterday.
Yikes.
Anthony Richardson should be back. Miami allowing 125.8 yards on the ground per game this year. That's probably where the Colts will attack. If Anthony Richardson's back, tail of tape says this. A-Rich gets the quarterback nod, head coach nod. I'm not giving it to either side. Receivers backfield with Devon Achane fully practicing this week. They both get the nod to the Miami Dolphins. Line of scrimmage, though, O-line, D-line, both given to the Colts. Dolphins just so banged up on both sides of those. Linebackers a wash. Secondary goes the Dolphins' way, but this Dolphins offense is just putrid, man. Without Tua Tagovailoa, and even with him, it wasn't that great. 12 points per game this year. Almost difficult to fathom how far they've fallen off from averaging 29.2
Then they put up
a year
73 against the Broncos.
Yeah. That feels like it was a decade ago for this Miami Dolphins team. I love the Colts in this one, man. This is one of my favorite bets of the week. It's just, the Dolphins coming off a bye. Maybe Mike McDaniel was in the kitchen whipping up something brand new for this offense. But you just don't have the horses. You got these speed receivers with a weak arm QB and a leaky offensive line. It's like, it doesn't add up for success.
This is that meme where the kid is poking the thing with the stick and he's like, do something. Yeah. That's Miami fans when they're talking about Mike McDaniel. They're like, show us the genius. Okay. We've got a guy who, albeit the Pro Bowl has lost some of its luster in the last decade or so. But they've got a guy who made a Pro Bowl. They've got a guy who should be able to distribute the football with a little bit of experience. You've got real weapons on the edge. You've got Achane back now in the backfield. You should be able to do things. But all that being said, I'm still all in on the Colts here. They're going to have a dominant line of scrimmage. I give a lot of credit to this offensive line for the Colts. They've had to play two drastically different styles of football this year.
Yeah.
When you got Anthony Richardson in the game, you're lining up, you're practicing for heavy runs, double teams. It's going to be a trench warfare style game. Then you get Joe Flacco in the game, and they pass the test as it pertains to quarterback protection. And I don't know if you know this or not, but O-linemen, we want to run the ball. We get out of the stadium quicker. We get home to our wives and our kids quicker, and we get to control who is the aggressor in those situations. So for an Anthony Richardson quarterback team, the offensive line is going to be really happy. They're going to run the football a lot. And to your point, I think it comes down to the O-line, D-line. I love the Colts in this one. I would love them even more if it was Joe Flacco. But Anthony Richardson, get in there, run the football effectively, take care of your body, and take care of the ball. You should get out of there with a win.
You know what's insane to think about? If the Dolphins win this game, there is a scenario that could play out to where if the season then ended after this week, the Dolphins would be in the playoffs.
That's insanity.
Isn't that insane?
This league.
They're 2-3. The only team, so there's the Broncos at 3-3, the Colts at 3-3.
Because
the Broncos
Jets,
lose
Patriots.
tonight. And if obviously the Colts, who they beat, they would be a playoff team, the Miami Dolphins. So
what is happening in this league right now?
I know. Not all is lost, but also it's like all is lost. We've watched this Miami Dolphins team. You can objectively look at this roster and say, we don't have to bring back
both sides of the ball.
That's the thing. Both sides, they're so dinged
Stars, star players.
So, all right, on to the Bengals at Browns.
This one is scary with the line. Go ahead.
Browns, 6.5 point
notebook.
Dogs. And the over-under in this one's 41.5 points. This is one of the same stories we did. What was the other game earlier? Where every single offensive tick mark goes to the Bengals, every single defensive tick mark goes to the Browns. Head coach going the Browns' way, because here's the thing: Joe Burrow 1-5 in his career versus the Browns. The one team he seems to struggle with consistently. But here's the other thing: Deshaun Watson's still playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Oh boy!
And he not only struggles against the Bengals, he struggles against every single team in the NFL, which is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is a league that's driven by quarterback performance, and Deshaun just hasn't been good enough at all. I mean, I don't know what the hell this Cleveland Browns football team is supposed to do. I don't know how you show up to work every day as an O-lineman, as a receiver, as a tight end, and think that this work that I'm doing, this sweat equity that I'm putting in, apparently is going to come back to me in some form. It's just not. And for this Browns team, I feel bad for him. The only silver lining for me was Nick Chubb may be back. We could see the return of the Chubbinator, who we all love so much, and that gives your offense an identity. If you get a guy like Nick Chubb in the roster, I'm not saying he's going to go in there and be the bell cow immediately. It was an awful injury that Minkah Fitzpatrick and him on that hit. So for Nick Chubb, really happy about him. And for the Bengals, you got to go out there and play a clean game offensively. The only thing that will keep you from beating this Cleveland Browns football team is if you turn the football over. Do you agree with me? If Joe Burrow goes and turns the football over a couple times, you can't give this team any hope. They have no hope right now, but you throw them a freebie, they have hope. I need to see this offense do their thing against the Browns. Go get a win. Go improve your record against the Browns. And right your wrongs, Joe Burrow. Right your wrongs.
I am very excited to see Amir Mims against this Browns defensive line.
That will not be fun.
Great early test.
That will not be fun
in his career.
Get some gloves.
And yeah, I would agree. Probably not fun. You said that I think the hand size thing is real. He probably didn't have.
They have gloves for Amir.
I'm saying when he was like in high school.
Yep.
They probably didn't have gloves that fit his hands.
So he got comfortable wearing no gloves.
That's how you are on the golf course. You don't wear golf gloves because you don't have ones that fit.
You're right. But I would argue that football gloves are more of a necessity than golf gloves.
I agree. And that's why I think it's crazy that he doesn't wear gloves. But I bet it's something that just started early on. And
I don't wear gloves on the golf course. You're at risk of getting hurt. You don't wear you don't wear football gloves on a football field.
Yeah.
I am now at risk.
That's fair.
Of getting hurt.
That's valid. All right.
And then the backup, you break two fingers because you don't have gloves on, and then they put in a third string guy. You think it's bad now? Could get worse. Could always get worse.
All right, before we get to the Eagles Giants, it's time for the Hellman's Stacks segment where we discuss the QB and receiver duos. Keep an eye on this upcoming weekend. Brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. May your game face be as vicious as your buffalo chicken dip is delicious.
Show me your game face.
I don't have it.
Show me your game face.
I was before games, tried to be as calm as possible. Okay. I was the guy who wanted to be. I didn't want to get hyped up.
Reading scripture and listening to
exactly.
Yeah,
I wanted to be calm because it was easy for me to just like get amped, but I would get too amped and then I would get nervous.
I had the problem before games where I'd go out there and I'd do my warm up. You know, you put on your mesh shorts, you put on your dry fit, you go out there with your cleats on, you run around with the O lineman, you go back in the locker room, then you look up and you're like, man, we have so much time. And then I would get this lull of like sleepiness and I would just like lay there in complete relaxation, almost meditation. And then they go, O-line, D-line, tight ends, linebackers, 5 minutes. And you're like, holy shit, we have a football game to play today.
All right.
That's how I was before the game.
My sack is Josh Allen and Amari Cooper this week. First intro to both of them.
What we got?
It is exactly what Josh Allen has been missing in this offense. Someone that can separate against man coverage in these Titans corners. Now, we said L'Jarius Sneed may be out. That'll be big because they'll go up and they'll punch you in the mouth. Jarvis Brownlee, we talked about him. Awesome rookie corner. They go up, they play press, they'll play man on the outside. Amari Cooper is the one guy you should be looking to when that's the case. And that's something that, maybe it's going to take him a while to get up to speed in the full course of this offense, but he can run slants. He can run the stuff we've seen Amari Cooper run.
And we can move him around too.
And you can
move him left and right, slot, anywhere. You can put Amari.
So I expect third downs, red zone. Amari Cooper's going to get involved. Amari Cooper's going to get him some yards, and he may get a tutty in this game.
Amari tutty. I wrote it down.
This has been the Hellman Stack segments brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Just like these QB and wide receiver duos, tailgate, snack, and Hellman's Mayonnaise make the perfect combo, bringing out the rich and creamy taste to all your game day dishes.
I made some Chick-fil-A sauce yesterday using Hellman's Mayonnaise.
Oh.
It was delicious. Okay.
Chick-fil-A sauce rips. And
so I was on TikTok and they said that the Chick-fil-A sauce recipe has been leaked. And I kind of did it without measuring and it came out and it was like actually pretty dang good.
It's
like mayo based.
You go mayo and then just sriracha.
Mayo
Put
sriracha.
Anything.
That's a good combo.
Anything. So give it a try. And Mayo Game Day be delicious with Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Shop your local Walmart, Kroger, or grocery store and add some extra deliciousness to your game day dishes this football season. All right, Eagles, Giants. Giants, 3-point dogs at home. 43.5 points is the over-under. Andrew Thomas, though, left tackle for the New York Giants, out for the season with a Liz Frank injury. Already had surgery on it. Daniel Jones now. 5 straight home games without a touchdown. That's not good. Giants, 16 points per game. That's even worse. The teletape says, kind of like I'm saying, all offense go into the Eagles. Defense, D-line linebackers go the Giants' way. I love that D-line. I'm going to keep raving about it. But then the secondary goes the Eagles' way with obviously what they've got in their first and second round picks. They're playing very, very well, at least last week. I don't know. I like the Eagles a lot here. And I like the under a lot here. The Giants, we'll see if Malik Neighbors plays. That could change this calculus a little bit. But Andrew Thomas not playing is just massive. Cannot be understated. I mean, Daniel Jones, the reason why everyone keeps saying he needs an O-line, he needs an O-line, he needs an O-line is because when he doesn't have an O-line, it's freaking awful, man.
Yep.
He's terrible without the O-line. And that blindside pressure, just his ability to see it, feel it, is not what you want out of a quarterback. And it's just going to be fairly consistent in this game if you're on to a backup OT there.
The Giants have shown me some juice the last few weeks. I've been impressed with the way they've gone out there and battled. And I know they've been kind of a laughing stock style team. And there's a handful of those teams in the NFL, but they have been trying to scratch and claw to get back to a respectable level. As it pertains to the Eagles, we know that there's the Nick Sirianni conversation and where is leadership in this building? Who is in charge? They said Jalen Hurts essentially told Nick Sirianni a few weeks ago, "You be yourself, man." I don't agree with that. I don't think I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Great.
As it pertains to Nick Sirianni.
What if yourself stinks?
Yeah,
that's what no one ever talks about.
What if you're kind of unlikable?
Yourself? What if you're not good?
What if you're unaware and unlikable? Do you be yourself then? I don't have a ton of concerns about the Eagles roster because they've got a guy by the name of Lane Johnson back in there, right tackle, and he's healthier. And this group should roll against the Giants. And to your point, it all hinges on whether Malik Neighbors is in or not. I think that's going to be a big one. And whether the Giants have a commitment to the running game. I think I've really liked the running game from the Giants recently. If they can commit to it, I think they can keep themselves in the ball game. But if they get out of that running game early after hitting their head on the door a couple times and force Daniel Jones to drop back the entire game, to your point, we could be looking at a pretty ugly turn of events for the Giants.
Yeah, I like the Eagles quite a lot. And
I don't know about quite a lot. I like the Eagles.
Could you imagine, though, if Nick Sirianni, and it's more because the Eagles defense right now against the Giants offense than anything the Eagles offense is doing. But they also are uniquely qualified to at least block up this Giants front, right?
Yep.
We've raved about how much they can take over games, how they've won them a few games this year on their own, but they're facing the top 3 O-line in football. As much as the Eagles offense struggle, it ain't been because this offensive line. The offensive line is getting their job done. So that's why I like the Eagles in this one. But I was just thinking, could you imagine Nick Sirianni if coaching like a 4-13 team?
Oh,
like what
brutal.
It would be like?
It would be must-see TV.
Like he's had
all the time. I would tune into every press conference. I would want to watch every halftime sideline interview coming out of the locker room. Melanie Collins, what do we got from Nick Sirianni? And just vomiting on the microphone. That's Nick Sirianni.
All right, on to the Seahawks.
With the Britney Spears buzz cut, too. Did we even talk about that? Like, that's the haircut you get when you got to make a change.
He has the full down to the dome. Oh, he does, dude. He went with the prison cut.
Yeah, he went with the leave Britney alone cut. Do you remember that video?
He looks like the lead of Prison Break, the show.
It is like the prison. Maybe he is asking to be broken out of prison. But really, you're in Philadelphia, one of the best sports cities in the world. How about you treat your fans well and they reciprocate? Okay, Nick, how about that one?
He doesn't even have a receding hairline. I did that once as a joke a few years ago. Did anyone ask him about this?
So I cut my beard a few years. I had a really, really big beard and I cut it off. And my older brother, who is like, part psychiatrist, part psychologist, he's a real brain. He's like you, Mike. He was like, did you know that when people cut their hair and make drastic changes, it's because they're going through something big or major in life and it could be a bad thing? Are you okay? So when I see Nick Sirianni come in with the G.I. Joe haircut, I know it ain't all right for Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
Bro.
I used to have long hair. I cut it during COVID.
A pandemic.
Yeah, it took a pandemic for you to get it. It makes sense. All right, Seahawks at Falcons. Falcons 3-point favorites. We're expecting fireworks, 51.5 points. I believe that's the highest number of the weekend. Not
many check marks here.
Not many check marks. Some evenly matched squads here, but some injuries to note. Actually, not even injuries. Maybe guys coming back. Byron Murphy, Boye Mafe played a little bit last week. But practicing more this week. Byron Murphy limited in practice. If those two are back, they're going to need it. Truly, because in this game, we've seen the Falcons just own the ground game the past few weeks with that offensive line. They get the tick mark. But the only tick marks given out here, I give the Seahawks the receivers, even if the Falcons are no slouches there. These are two great receiving cores. Quarterback, I couldn't decide one way or the other. Backfields, some awesome backfields. Couldn't decide one way or the other. Linebackers and secondary for both, too evenly matched to call them. So this is one of my favorite games of the weekend because it's a great like second tier litmus test. I don't think anyone's putting these teams in the tier 1 of the NFC, right? No one's saying these are Super Bowl contenders. Dude. But it's like playoff, where this is kind of the playoff level. These are probably 6, 7. Are they the 6th or 7th best team in the NFC? Is I think what we kind of learned after this game. Seahawks, they started off 3-0 and they've been 0-3 since.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to keep in mind that the Seahawks went to Detroit and it went down to the wire against the Lions, who, in my opinion, looked to be the best team in football last week from a complete roster, complete performance standpoint. I give a lot of credit to the Seahawks. They've been fun to watch. And to your point, you get Murphy back, you get Mafe back. Both these guys, I'm not sure how their health is, but if they were able to practice and they were limited, I would expect them to play. They're going to need everybody because to your point about that Falcons team, we know Kirk Cousins can go out and put 500 yards in the passing stats, but it's that running game that everything's really predicated off of. Algier, and I say Algier, I'm talking about a NASCAR driver now. Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, they present different issues for a defensive front. A defensive coordinator is going to be banging his head against the wall every weekend when these two guys are up. And also Drake London, Darnell Mooney, this group has been a lot of fun. They figured out they're in stride. Obviously, not as lopsided as they would have liked last week against the Panthers, but this team is dangerous on offense. I think it comes down to really, are they able to get home? Are they able to stymie some of these double teams for the Falcons and get after the line of scrimmage?
I kind of like the Seahawks in this one.
Seahawks, they're spicy in this one.
I kind of do, because the one thing we say with the Seahawks is their O-line. They get owned by top-tier O-line talent or top-tier D-line talent.
Yep.
The top-tier D-line talent ain't walking through that door for the Falcons, right? We've said that numerous times that they are susceptible.
This plays to their
in that regard. So I think that once that's the case, if you give Geno time with this receiving core,
great thrower of the football,
leads the NFL right now in passing yards, 296 per game. I think they might put some points in the board. So I got Seahawks.
What's the line in this one?
3 points the Falcons' way, but it's obviously in Atlanta.
Falcons
tough place to play.
3.
51.5 points. I'll go Seahawks, and I think the over is a little spicy.
I'll go with the Falcons. I'll go with the over.
Okay, cool. All right, on to
That'll
the
be fun.
Lions at Vikings, last of the 1 p.m. games because the NFL dicked us and gave us the 3 box in the 4 p.m. slate. We'll get to that in a second, though. But Lions traveling to Minnesota, Vikings, probably the game of the weekend, at least in the NFC. 2.5-point favorites the Vikings are. 40.5 points is the over-under. These are the number 2 and number 3 rush defenses in the NFL. Vikings at number 2, Lions at number 3, but not nearly as good against the pass. Last year, if you go back to last year, Lions carved up Brian Flores' defense twice towards the end of the season, scored 30 points against them both times. And Jared Goff this year leading the NFL in yards per attempt versus the blitz, 13.3. They're leading the NFL with 30.2 points per game. This is kind of like big boy, heavyweight matchup.
Yep.
The injuries to note, though, and there are a lot. Obviously, the Lions, they're down so many starters on defense from the start of the season. Just going to name off you: Aiden Hutchinson, Emmanuel Mosley, Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Derek Barnes, all those guys on IR. But their defense still isn't too bad. It's a crazy thing. And then for the Vikings, Aaron Jones, hamstring, didn't practice on Wednesday, unlikely to play in this game. That's why they traded for, what's his face earlier this?
Cam Akers
earlier this week. And Blake Cashman, the linebacker who we've raved about, he's unlikely to play with the turf toe. The tail of the tape. Defense all going the Vikings' way now with all those Lions injuries. Backfield O-line, though, that's going the Lions' way. That's where they've been winning of late. Vikings get the wide receiver tick mark, even if they're both awesome receiving cores. Quarterback tick mark going the Lions' way just for longevity's sake at this point. But even if Darnold may be playing better football at the very moment, but I don't know. Jared Goff's come on of late. Head coach, staff, 2 of the best coach staffs in the NFL, but give me the Vikings staff at this point. I don't know, man. I love this game. I think my only take is I think we get points. I think we get the overhit.
Yeah, and this will answer the age-old question: which would you rather have, a dominant defensive coordinator or a dominant offensive coordinator?
Yeah, it's a good
I'm
point.
of the thought process.
Even if the Vikings have a pretty elite offensive coordinator.
When I got to the league in 2013, it was Mark Trestman was my head coach. Really, he's a brilliant coordinator, and I don't necessarily know if he was cut out to be a head coach in the NFL, but one thing that I had confidence in is that when we went into the install meeting at the beginning of the week, they had answers.
You had a plan
for the questions that would be on the test on Sunday. I think Ben Johnson does a fantastic job, and this Detroit Lions group will have answers. Not only that, to your point about the line of scrimmage, the Detroit Lions, they pride themselves on dominating the line of scrimmage. That's why I'm going to roll with the Lions in this one. I think it doesn't even necessarily have to be close. Give me the Lions.
Interesting. To win, I think I'll take. Oh gosh,
see,
Lions are so hot right now. I mean,
so hot.
And again, I do think if I trust one person to have answers for Brian Flores in this defense, what they've done so far, and now it's not Jared Goff, it's Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
he's been so good in terms of like finding answers for his quarterback versus the blitz. So yeah, I guess I'll go Lions. I'll lead Lions with
It'll be fun. It'll be a fun game.
Answer
a lot of questions. Pete's power rankings will definitely have to change after this week.
That's a good point. All right, on to the 4 p.m. slate. Raiders traveling to Los Angeles to face the Rams. Nice little drive out west there. Rams, 7-point favorites. 43.5 points is the over-under. Some injuries to note. Cooper Kupp back practicing. Limited participant, though. We'll see if he goes with that ankle injury. Max Crosby not practicing. Michael Mayer been out. He was out last week for personal reasons. We'll see what those end up being. Haven't gotten any more than that from the Raiders camp, though, unfortunately.
A lot of personal reasons going on.
Yeah, that's sad. Domer legend. Rams, though, 7-point favorites. 43.5 points is the over-under in this one. Tail of the tape says this. I have the quarterback, running back, going the Rams' way. Receiver going the Raiders' way. That is, though, without Cooper Kupp expected. But if he plays, it's a little different story. O-line going the Raiders' way. D-line going the Rams' way. Linebacker, secondary, both going the Raiders' way. Man, this one, I don't know. It means a lot for the Rams. It means a lot more for the Rams in terms of this season than it does for the Raiders, in my opinion, because they're 1-4. I don't think anyone thinks they're completely out of it because of how banged up they've been. You're literally just like, nothing they've done to date, the first 5 games of the season, is anything like what they are as a team.
Yep.
When you're missing your top 2 wide receivers, multiple starting offensive linemen every single week, it's just like, you really have no clue. Now, I do think defensively, they're just too susceptible to expect them to get back in the playoff race. But if they win this, 2-4, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. So I'd put this in the must-win territory for the Rams.
Must-win territory, and I think it's a must-take-a-look-at situation. And when I say that, I take a look at the head coach. It's Coach McVay. That's the guy I trust more in this situation. Obviously, players coach. We love Antonio Pierce, yada, yada, yada. But there's so many distractions going on right now with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think about the quarterbacks. And Matt Stafford is the obvious – I'm tilting towards Matt Stafford and the head coach. But then you think about that defensive front for the LA Rams, and they've been getting after people with some of their young guys. I think that will be the difference in the game. Is the Las Vegas Raiders protection plan going to be good enough to stop this front? And can they match the production regardless of who is at receiver? If it's Cooper Kupp, great. But regardless of who's at receiver for the Rams, Matt Stafford's going to eat. They're going to get there. So McVay's going to have a great game plan. I like the Rams in this one. Kind of an easy pick for
underrated storyline. How many fights do you think we see in the stands?
A lot of fights. How many penalties do we see in this game from the Raiders side? That's really where it's at.
But dude, I feel like that game is going to be a bloodbath in the stands.
Raiders, Jack
Rams,
Youngblood
battle
jersey
for
fighting
LA.
a Howie Long jersey somewhere in that stadium.
All right, on to the Panthers at Commanders. Commanders 8.5-point favorites. That's the biggest line of the weekend. 51.5 points is the over/under in this one. Bad news for the Commanders, though. I think we touched on this earlier this week. Jonathan Allen on IR, torn pec. That'll be the season for him. Massive injury.
Carolina O-line's happy about that one.
Carolina O-line's happy about that one because that's the only tick mark they're getting in this one. Every single tick mark going the Commanders' way. Obviously, the Panthers, they just a little underpowered this year, shall we say. So not much to really speak of here other than I think 8.5 points isn't enough. I'll just say it. I think the Commanders roll up somewhere in the 40-point range. I don't see the Panthers.
So it's still Thursday. We don't know what they're going to do at practice today, but it's been the question around Brian Robinson. Is he going to be back in the lineup? But we saw that he was a non-participant earlier this week. But you and I talked about it. Some of these practices, like Wednesday, they're going to run the football a lot. I don't think they would need him in that practice. Thursday, you're looking at blitz pickups. I think that's an important thing to be a part of. Fridays, the red zone stuff. We could see Brian Robinson limited participant today, maybe full participant tomorrow. But if that's not the case, I think it's all going to fall on the shoulders of this guy, Jaden Daniels, who's been awesome. And I talked about the run game and how important it is for Cliff Kingsbury, Jaden Daniels, for that offense to stay on schedule. Now, without some of these guys in the backfield for Washington, the onus is going to be on Jaden Daniels. He's going to be – I would imagine this Carolina defense is going to try to take away that first read, which Jaden Daniels has been really sharp on all year. Take away the first read, make him go through his progressions, and force Jaden Daniels to truly play quarterback and beat you this week.
Here's the thing. I don't even think he's going to need to drop back and pass, though, to roll it up on this. 153.5 yards per game Carolina's averaging allowed on the ground.
So whoever's back there at running back, you think it's going to be okay?
Yes. I think that's going to be purely they don't have the dogs in the trenches. And yeah, J.C. Horn could probably match up with Terry McLaurin, right? I think he could hold his own in that matchup. That's fine. They can win that.
But you got WR2, you got the tight end, you got the running back.
The Panthers have found out pretty much every single week you can't just have one corner in the NFL. All right. Chiefs at 49ers. Another game of the weekend. 49ers 1.5-point faves. Incredibly, this is the streak between the two longest active quarterbacks who have been favorites in their home games. You want to guess how many games in a row Patrick Mahomes has been a favorite during a regular season game?
Over under 40.
It's under
27.
32.
Okay.
That's how many Purdy's been a favorite, though. 27 straight games he's been a favorite. And the 49ers and Brock Purdy are going to break Patrick Mahomes' streak. So Brock Purdy will be the longest because they're 1.5-point favorites unless money really swings this one. But it is obviously in San Francisco. 10th Super Bowl rematch the following year. The Super Bowl winners are 6-3 in those rematches. And here's a little something for you. This is a matchup between the quarterback with the lowest percentage of his yards coming after the catch in the NFL and the quarterback with the highest percentage. Do you want to take a guess at which one's which?
Patrick is highest after catch. Brock is
lowest.
Yeah.
That's check down Brock for you. Lowest percentage of yards. He's doing it all in the air this year. Ricky Pearsall, though, may be back. He logged a full practice this week, so that would be nice to see. Your tail of tape says this.
Many men.
Oh,
Pearsall, what a dog.
Yeah, dude, you take a bullet. He's
going to get a standing O.
Exactly. All right, head coach, quarterback going the Chiefs' way. Receivers, backfield, though, even if we got some injuries, Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel may not play. We'll see. Even if they don't play, I'm still going the 49ers' way. Backfield, if Jordan Mason doesn't play, it's a different story, but I gave it to the 49ers for now. O-line, D-line, though, this is where the Chiefs separate themselves, in my opinion.
This is the matchup.
That's the matchup.
This is the money
Linebackers,
matchup.
49ers way. Chiefs get the secondary tick mark. I mean, it's a great matchup for a number of different reasons. 49ers at home, though, massive, in my opinion, in this one. I think they can run the ball on the Chiefs team. I think they're just going to be able to. If Jordan Mason plays, I like.
Conversely, I think the Chiefs can run on the Niners. I mean, I think the matchup that this comes down to, and you said it. I mean, the Niners can run the ball at will. They've got guys on both sides of the offensive line that can be dominant at the point of attack, front side, back side. Trent Williams and our guy Dominic Puni at the right guard position. I think that is the matchup. It's Chris Jones and Dominic Puni, run game, and then play action game, and then can Dominic stand up to Chris Jones and protect his quarterback in the big third downs. We know Chris Jones is probably the most clutch, big-time rusher in the NFL right now. When his team needs it, he finds a way to get it done. But to your point, they're going to try to run the football right at Chris Jones in this Chiefs defense. Can they bow up? Conversely, on the other side of the football, last time we saw these two teams play, the first quarter, the first few drives, it was a physical exhibition by that San Francisco 49er defense. They answered the bell as it pertained to the physicality, and they kind of bullied the Chiefs a little bit early in the game. But I think the Chiefs are ready for that. They're expecting that early, and I look for them to stick to the ground game a lot. I think that inside three for the Kansas City Chiefs is as good as there is in football in terms of offensive linemen, with Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. So look for that to be the focal point. It's going to be the line of scrimmage that determines the outcome of this football game.
I'm trying to think. 47.5 points. I think we see points.
I'm going under.
Oh, I think we see points. I don't love betting that one either way, but I do like the 49ers in this one. All right, Sunday night.
I like the Chiefs.
Sunday Night Football. Jets traveling to Pittsburgh, face the Steelers. Steelers 1.5 point dogs at home. We still don't know who's going to be quarterback. 38.5 points is the over-under in this one. Some injuries to note here. Devonta Adams, hamstring, magically healed. He'll be playing this week.
So funny.
DJ Reed, groin injury, didn't practice. That will be
Is there going to be a lawsuit there for Devonta Adams? Is there any sort of legal recourse for, you've been sitting out with a hamstring, but now
you got better.
Yeah, it got better.
It got better. Hamstrings get better. Zach Frazier, though, center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, out. That means not only are the Steelers down 3 starting offensive linemen from the beginning of the season, they're probably down their 3 best starting offensive linemen from the beginning of the season in terms of Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, and James Daniels. So the tail of the tape, a lot of tick marks going the Jets' way. Pretty much everything except for head coach and D-line. Especially now, receivers. Especially after they got Devonta Adams and whatever the heck is going on in that Steelers receiver room. Man, I don't like the Steelers at all in this one. I know they're at home. I know it's a big primetime game. I know the Jets are under turmoil right now. But their O-line is just going to be overmatched, dude. It's just, you can't, even if it were the 3 worst offensive linemen that went down with injury, they would be in trouble. But it's not. It's 3 guys who were the most consistent up front. So they're working with, they're behind the 8 ball here. Broderick Jones isn't playing well.
Guard, backup tackle, and then Broderick Jones.
Mason McCormick has been okay as a backup, your 4th rounder from this year. So their offensive line draft for this year looks like it was pretty special. Could be building that thing great long term.
And if you roll Russell Wilson out there,
but then if you
roll Russell Wilson out there, this is why you roll Justin Fields out there regardless. Because even if there's free runners, I trust Justin Fields to make a play. When things break down offensively, I trust him to be able to get outside, make plays with his arms and with his legs. We know we've seen Russell Wilson be the guy that's Houdini-ish in the backfield, and he kind of looks like early in Russell's career, he kind of had a little bit of the Caleb Williams where he can pirouette out of things and make big plays down the field. I don't know if Russell, and it remains to be seen, I don't know if Russell's healthy enough or limber enough or quick enough at this point in his career to be able to withstand some of the things that could happen as a result of those offensive linemen being out. You're talking about your center, your rookie center, who's been playing all rookie level football. You're talking about James Daniels. You're talking about Fautanu. That's a lot of guys at important spots. So that's what I'm going to be looking at on that side of the ball. And then the other side of the ball, the Steelers have some injuries on their defensive front there. That's another
Highsmith
thing.
might be back this week, but Nick Herbig definitely.
Yeah, Herbig's going to be out. Highsmith is not 100%. So when I see one of those guys down, we can allocate some resources to TJ Watt, who's obviously the big issue for this defense. That's really what it's going to come down to. What's their protection plan? And is Justin Fields or Russell Wilson going to be the quarterback? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah,
I love the Jets in this one.
Yeah, I don't love the Jets offense till like Devontae Adams. They're world beaters. I think they still are going to have issues with this Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line that don't all of a sudden make everything look great. But I don't think the Steelers move the ball. They're going to have a whale of a time, again, especially if Russell Wilson plays. If Justin Fields plays, he can create something with his legs. He can get you, a big pickup here and there doing that. But they are wildly overmatched otherwise on the offense when they have the football. So I think my favorite bet from this one's the under. 38.5 points is just
Jets
more
under.
than I expect being scored in this game. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And after that, hit the 2 Monday Night Football doubleheaders.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
Hey, Mike,
Who you got in that Calgary?
You don't want to miss that Calgary Stampeders versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats game. I'm more of a Hamilton Tiger Cats guy myself. I like the two word names more.
You got the line on that? Let's check the line on that.
Let's go.
Who do we got?
Give a preview on this game.
We have the Tiger. Oh wait, no. Odd Shark is saying that the Calgary Stampeders are 4-point dogs at Hamilton.
Hamilton Tiger Cats. You're hosting the Calgary Stampeders in what seems to be a rivalry game. I would assume that they're all rivalry games in Canada.
There's like 8 teams. 51.5 points is the over-under. So I don't know. I don't have a good take on that one.
Do they let guys run from the backfield like streak like they do in arena football?
They do that. They get the full moment. Always overs. All right, Monday Night Football. Ravens traveling to the Bucks. Bucks 3.5 point dogs at home. 49.5 points is the over-under. Ravens very healthy to date. One of the healthiest teams in the NFL, but the Bucks just getting back to full strength themselves. Not a lot of injuries to note of this, so that's a great thing to see.
Yep.
You love going into a Monday Night Football, big primetime matchup, and seeing all the stars out there.
Full strength.
Seeing all the stars out there. Both these teams come into this game having had 3 straight games of 30-plus points. It's only the 5th time in NFL history that's been the case. Derrick Henry, currently your leader in rushing attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and yards per carry.
Guy's unbelievable.
Only the second running back to do that through the first 6 weeks in NFL history.
And he's been doing it for a decade.
But the Ravens, they're averaging 275 passing yards per game allowed this season. That's second worst in the NFL. Now they have played Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Jaden Daniels in 5 of their 6 games.
Well, Baker Mayfield ain't nobody either.
And Baker Mayfield ain't no slouch. So, Tail Tape says this. I like the Ravens when it comes to head coach, quarterback, receivers, backfield. Even if the Bucks backfield looked like an absolute house, they ain't Derrick Henry. O-line, D-line, though, give me the Bucks in both those regards. Now, again, the Ravens aren't terrible on either of those sides. They've been much improved since early on in the season. Their defensive line obviously can stop the run. Travis Jones, monster on the interior. But just give me the Bucks on those two. Linebackers go the Ravens' way. Secondary, though, goes the Bucks' way. Because this Ravens secondary, as I said, can get torched at times. So
not very nicey.
Down in Tampa, I like the Bucks. 3.5 points is a lot. I think it's a close game. I think it's like a tight one. The Ravens have played a few tight ones this year. I think it's another tight one.
You got my wheel spinning a little bit.
Remember the tight ones.
I was about to hammer the Ravens, but I mean, with the way that Baker can move the football and with the porous nature of that Ravens secondary, we could be looking at a shootout. And if it comes down to a shootout, we could be looking at Lamar Jackson getting the ball last. Give me the Ravens in this one. Lamar's been the clear-cut MVP, in my opinion, and complimented by Derrick Henry. And now his weapons at the tight end position are opening things up down the field. I like the Ravens in this one. Matter of fact, I love the Ravens in this one. You put 51 points up last week. It ain't going to happen against this Ravens defense. Give me the Ravens.
Raymond James will be rocking on
shooting
Monday
the cannonballs
off. Is this still Raymond James?
In my heart and brain, it is.
I went there when it first opened maybe like a year or two after first time, but I remember like the parking lots were still like dust. It was maybe like 99 or 2000. My parents took
Like
me.
a grass parking lot.
Yeah. And the woman in front of me was hammered. I didn't like know it at the time. I didn't know what somebody being like hammered was. In retrospect, she was hammered and she kept being like, stop kicking me to me. And I wasn't kicking her.
She was gaslighting you.
She was gaslighting That was my first, it's my first female gaslighting.
Here's my Raymond
experience.
James story. We ran the Chiefs run that 2-point conversion shovel pass to Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And he runs right inside the line of scrimmage. Well, we ran that play, and our version of Travis Kelce was not Travis Kelce. He dropped the football, and then the pile landed on the double team that I was
want to
part
say
of,
who that was?
And my ankle snapped. And funny you asked about Raymond James, because I went to the locker room, took off my pads, crutched back out onto the field. My leg was blown up. I couldn't play. And the whole game, I was thinking about who I had to talk to be able to get a tour of the pirate ship. All I wanted to do was maybe take like a handicap tour of the pirate ship, shoot the cannons off, something. We ended up losing that game. No fun. Raymond James, bad vibes for me.
You got to talk to Boomer. That's who you talk to.
Jack Sparrow.
Chargers, Cardinals, final game of the weekend, final Monday Night Football game. Teletape says this, a lot going the Chargers' way. Cardinals really only get the receivers tick mark, and that's if Marvin Harrison Jr. plays. Actually, probably not. They're still a better side either way.
I don't think he
But
goes.
he may not be playing with a concussion. Asante Samuel, he was put on IR before last week's game, unfortunately. So their secondary, a little underpowered. Sean Murphy-Bunting, though, for the Cardinals, he may be out as well with a neck injury as he left. Still waiting on Darius Robinson's debut. He's getting closer. May not be this week, though. Man, I don't think there's a lot of reasons to like the Cardinals in this one. Chargers, they're number one in the NFL in points per game allowed this season, 13.2. Cardinals have doubled that, 27.2. They're kind of in free fall right now. And
a lot to like for the Chargers right now.
And yeah, there's a lot.
The Chargers are getting healthy. That offensive line's getting healthy. Justin Herbert's playing a little bit of his game. We saw this team that's been synonymous with running the football between the tackles and being aggressive. Well, they went out last week and they threw the football a lot early. So you're looking at a team now on offense that has an identity that's kind of bipolar. You can run the football at will, and you can throw it all over the yard with Justin Herbert. Then the defensive side of the ball, Jesse Minter's been doing a great job with this group, and they are part of the league's elite as it pertains to defense. So for the Cardinals, it's going to be tough to move the football. Also, you got to stop this juggernaut of an offense that can beat you in a number of different ways. I like the Chargers in this one. Don't ever forget that Justin Herbert's an elite quarterback. Don't ever let all the other stars in this league put a shadow over Justin Herbert. Okay? Go Ducks.
Never forget, as they say. But this O-line for the Chargers, that's where it's over for the Cardinals.
Yep.
Truth, in my opinion, they are such a house now. At full strength, one of the best units in the NFL. And
they got a couple blue chips.
I mean, as Joe All continues through his rookie year, I think we're only going to see him improve on the right side as he gets more comfortable there. And that's a scary thought, given how the early returns have been for that offensive line. I mean, they held up so well trying to pass against the Broncos when no one has, right?
Yep.
No one has been able to pass protect against that unit, and they did. So, yeah, give me the Chargers in that one. All right, on to final segment, excuse me. Locks of the week. Give us your three this week. Who you got?
Okay, hold on just a second. You give your three first, because
I'll give my three
I'm
first.
looking at last week's locks, and that just ain't going to cut it for me.
I have the Colts, 3-point favorites at home against the Dolphins. That one, I don't know. That feels just wildly low to me. Did someone know something about this Dolphins team? Did they change their stripes overnight? I don't know. But give me the Colts. Give me the Buffalo Titans over. I've been betting a lot of unders. That's one I like the over this week. And then give me Drake May's over passing yards, 204.5. Absolutely love that number.
Oh, there's my locks right there. I got Buffalo -8.5. I've got Carolina, Washington with the over. I'm not necessarily picking a winner there, but it's probably going to be Washington. And then I got Godwin going over 69.5 receiving yards. I think Baker's going to throw it all over the field. We talked about that. I think he could go over 100 yards.
I love it. And then producer Harry, getting in the mix. He added Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown.
Harry, I love the Post-it note. So I texted Harry this morning, and I was like, we need to do a producer pick. Like,
yeah,
get
in the mix.
We get our picks every week. Get in the mix. So there he is, Jaden Daniels, anytime touchdown. I was also told by a sharp, my buddy named Jeff Ratcliffe, who you and I both know, Mike.
BFF legend.
He said, dude, we do a parlay on tops, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like 5 of us and we all pick a
Pick
leg
one.
to the parlay.
Mhm.
And then we like our producer puts it in, you know what I'm saying? And the first week I did Brock Bowers anytime touchdown. It was like 3 weeks ago. And I was the only one who didn't hit. And Jeff explained to me that the
Side-eyed.
anytime touchdowns are where these sports books make their money.
Yeah, I never bet anytime touchdown.
So I didn't know that. So I'm staying away from anytime touchdowns, but Big Brain Harry, who actually is a big brain, I'm not being facetious, went anytime touchdown there.
I pretty much try to stay away from any bet where they don't write the other side of it, right? You know what I'm saying? So there's you
Yep.
can't bet no
That he
touchdown.
won't.
You
Yeah.
can't bet that he won't score a touchdown.
Yep.
So at that point, they can put any number up there they want.
But these are fun. We're coming along. I'm learning. Mike's obviously winning the best bets, but it's a long season.
I'm so mad I had my first below 500 week,
Mm.
but we're bouncing back here in week 7. There you have it. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Really helps us out. Leave a review if you want to. We always enjoy those. Until next time, Mike Renner, Kyle Long. Keep pushing.
Peace.